These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
This is why you should trust your child's intuition. This story comes from Reddit and is as follows. When this child was around 8 or 9, after school, their family had some friends over for dinner. The mother and father invited over one of their friends and along with her boyfriend. Though the boyfriend was not acting very creepy at the party, the child was feeling off and had this gut feeling that something wasn't right. The boyfriend even attempted to play the game Airplane with the child in front of everybody else, so it wasn't super creepy, but still pretty odd. Even so, she still couldn't shake the feeling that there was just something very off about this guy. Even so, the party ended, and that was that. Life went on as normal. That is until a few months later. Months after the party, the friend that the parents had invited over had gone missing. It was then found that the boyfriend that the guest had taken with her to the party was the one that took her life. And with this being said,
2 kids are playing in the living room before falling asleep. After they fall asleep, something pulls one off the sofa.
Games you should never play. Part 24. Blue Baby, Baby Blue. Begin at night. Go into a bathroom and turn off all the lights. Then lock the door behind you and face the mirror. As you're looking into the mirror, position your arms as though you're cradling a baby. While doing this, chant the phrase Blue Baby, Baby Blue 13 times. As you do this, you'll feel the weight in your arms begin to grow. And at some point, you'll start to feel scratching on your arms. Once you feel the scratching, immediately drop the baby in the toilet, flush it, unlock the door, and leave. If you're alive, you won, but there are 2 possible losing conditions. The lesser of 2 being the scratching in your arms becoming unbearable, or the second one being a woman appearing in the mirror. She will demand her baby back and probably kill you.
these things shouldn't be terrifying, but they are. Part 7. Starting off at number 1, I have a photo behind me of hooves from a newborn horse, and I bet you guys didn't know that this is what they look like. They have a very soft, almost fleshy looking appearance, which is kind of off-putting and a little bit disturbing, to be quite honest. In at number 2, we have this Shrek and Fiona cosplay, which is basically what Shrek and Fiona would look like in real life. A little bit disturbing, I'm not going to lie. And finally, in at number 3, we have this footage of a spider that appears to be staring back at the camera. Now, of course, this is not actually happening, it's just an optical illusion. However, it's still pretty creepy looking. Follow for more content just like this.
Terrifying last words people said right before passing away. A nurse working at the Alzheimer's and Dementia unit in a hospital said this experience really got to her. One of her favorite patients' conditions was getting worse, so she started checking on him more often. They'd always joke around with each other, but in the last weeks of this patient's life, he stopped talking completely and would barely acknowledge anyone speaking to him. Until one night, this nurse went into his room and said she was going home for the day, but she'll see him tomorrow. That's when he looked directly into her eyes, smiled, and said, "You look like an angel." At that point, he hadn't been lucid in weeks, and unfortunately, he passed away the next morning.
Asking AI to draw horrible things.
A creepy ghost story from each state, part 1. California, Alcatraz prison. Staying at Alcatraz was no joke, and even the spirits of the most insane and notorious criminals were broken there. It is said that the empty cells inside the walls of Alcatraz still home the rest of the spirits that remain there. Some of the worst criminals in America, including Machine Gun Kelly and Al Capone. Follow for the next state.
These twins barely spoke to anyone but each other. As children, their parents quickly noticed that Jennifer and June Gibbons weren't like the other kids. They were unusually inseparable and even created their own language. By their teens, they were even mirroring each other's actions. They would move and walk exactly alike. But even after seeing specialists, no one could figure out what was going on with the girls. One speech therapist noticed that it seemed like June wanted to talk but was controlled by her sister. Their diaries revealed that June felt the same. She called her sister a dark shadow, and Jennifer felt that they were fatal enemies. They tried separating the girls, but they rapidly declined into a trance-like state. When they reunited, they withdrew even more and stopped talking to their family almost completely. By the time they were 18, they were rebelling and arrested for arson. They were committed to a maximum security prison where they lived for 12 years. In March 1993, the twins were being transferred to a low security, but when they arrived, Jennifer was unresponsive and pronounced dead at age 29. It seemed like she just fell asleep and never woke up. After this, Jennifer began speaking and interacting with the world as if she had her whole life.
The smiling man has been spotted all over Liverpool. He was spotted again last week, but this time in Sefton Park. A young woman called Louise was on her way home from work. It was pouring down with rain and she was trying to get home as quick as she could. She noticed a man standing in front of her, in the rain, just grinning widely. As she got closer, she noticed he started laughing. The man slowly approached Louise, and as he got closer, she noticed something disturbing. She noticed the man wasn't smiling, he had no upper lip at all. It was as if his lip had been cut off. The man's eyes were red raw, she wasn't sure if they were tears or just the rain. The smile on his face was painfully wide. Louise said to him, "Do you need any help?" He grabbed her shoulders and shouted, "You should be like me." Louise pushed him off and ran all the way home. In the past month, this is the third time the smiling man's been reported in Liverpool.
Photos with disturbing backstories. This seems like a normal photo of a very old hotel, however when you know the backstory behind it, it gets a lot more disturbing. The hotel is located in Colorado and was built in the early 1900s, and it's actually part of the inspiration behind the movie The Shining. Back in 19, however, there was a massive explosion in this hotel which left the chambermaid maimed. This means she got really messed up. A few years down the line, she ended up passing away, and a lot of the guests said that they had seen her ghost stalking the halls. Real or fake, this hotel does not look like somewhere I would want to stay. For our second photo, we have this photo of a 13-year-old girl walking on a lawn. Now, there doesn't really seem to be anything wrong with this photo from first glance, but the backstory is very disturbing as well. This girl right here is known as Jeannie, the feral child. For countless years, her father kept her locked away into a room where she couldn't walk or talk to anybody. This was her after being rescued, and she was barely able to walk and completely unable to talk. Follow for more content.
Creepy commercials aired on TV PT.4.
Breakfast! I'm hungry! Take it from Carinkles. That's me. The best breakfast under the big top is Post Sugar Rice Carinkles. So crinkly, so delicious, so different. Each grain of rice in Sugar Rice Carinkles is carinkled with honey and sugar. It's so good, I crinkle every time I eat it. Yep, no matter what other rice cereal you've ever tried, you'll love Post Sugar Rice Carinkles best of all. Honey and sugar make it different and wonderful. A circus of fun to eat. So you crinkle on down to the store for Post Sugar Rice Carinkles, the greatest cereal treat on earth.
Have you heard the urban legend of Carmen Winstead? Disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only. I repeat, this video is for entertainment purposes only. If you get scared easily, you might want to click off this video. This story goes way back. Before there were creepypastas, there was something called chain mail, where you would be emailed these scary stories, and if you didn't send them to 15 other people, something bad would happen to you. And the most popular chainmail scary story was that of Carmen Winstead. There was a girl named Carmen who moved to a new school and didn't have many friends, but eventually she found a friend group of 5 girls. They all became best friends until Carmen realized that the girls were talking about her behind her back. Not only were they talking about her, but they were also spreading rumors about her, saying that she wipes snot on people and that she lives in the underground sewer system. Little did these girls know that their bullying would have the worst consequences ever. Part 2 is posted now.
Creepy last words people said right before dying. Reddit user List9 said that she had a cousin who had cancer and died when he was a little kid. He once asked his mother why all these people visited, and she said, "Because your cousins, aunts, and uncles love you very much and they want you to get better." And then he answered, "I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones who visit me."
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit. Number 1, CPR. Did you know that the CPR dummy's face is actually based off of a 16-year-old dead girl? The girl who this was based off of had her body pulled out of the Seine River in 1880, and the cause of her death was never discovered. And the mortician who got her body was so entranced by how peaceful her face was that he decided to make this the international copy that you would use for a dummy in CPR training. Number 2, dirty ice. Now, we've all been to a restaurant before. You sit down at the table and one of the first things that a waiter will ask you is, do you want something to drink? But if I were you, next time you get a drink, ask for it without any ice. Because according to an HVAC technician, restaurants do not take as good of care of their ice machines as they need to. You see, ice machines need to be taken apart and sanitized once every couple months, but many restaurants don't even do that. This leads to a majority of restaurants having machines filled with mold so thick they can pull it out with their hands. So think about that the next time you go to a restaurant. And finally, take care of the elderly. One of the most common injuries that older people will get is a broken hip. This is very normal, it happens pretty often, but this next fact I'm about to tell you, I need you to know so you can take care of your grandparents. 1/3 of people who break their hip will die within the next year afterwards. It could be as simple as them having a broken hip, recovering, and then falling again, breaking that hip one more time, and having no way to reach anyone afterwards. So all I can really say about this is make sure you check up on your grandparents, especially if they go through a hip injury, and just keep them safe. And look, I know a lot of these are hard to hear and could have a lot of dark repercussions on your life, but that's why.
The workhouses of Victorian Britain had worn Felicity down, until she met a rather distinguished lady one evening. In the pouring rain, she offered to help the well-to-do woman with her groceries. Seeing the state of her rags, she offered Felicity a job caring for the sick at a converted old church. Snapping up the offer, she arrived a week later for her first night. The initial task was to take laundry into the basement for washing. By candlelight, she crept down the rotting steps. The temperature was significantly lower down there, and Felicity felt as though she was being watched. Kneeling down to grab clothes, she got the overwhelming sensation someone was stood next to her. Too frightened to look, she stood up and caught her reflection in the mirror. There on the left stood a naked man covered in sores. His mouth stretched wider, revealing a black liquid that poured out. Felicity screamed in terror, and the man vanished before her eyes. Hysterical, she ran up the stairs and crashed into the lady of the house. Explaining through tears, the lady simply replied, "Yes, child, some patients refuse to move on. Now, get back down there and finish the job before midnight."
Okay, so it's taken me a couple days to decide how to make this video, if I even wanted to make this video, because the amount of people asking, first of all, is the queen even in here? And second of all, the more morbid question of how are they keeping her body, fresh during this 11 days of mourning. So I thought I would answer those questions, hopefully give you some clarity on what's the deal here. So first of all, Queen Elizabeth is indeed inside this coffin. No, I don't know what she's wearing. I've heard she was buried with her wedding band, not her engagement ring, and a pair of pearl earrings, but I don't know anything beyond that. I don't think anybody does, nor will we unless they choose to release that information. Why would they put her in the coffin only to cart her around the country for 11 days? They're not gonna open this again. They're done. We're done looking at her. The family already had their time to pay their respects privately. That's why they were all jetted up to Balmoral. It wasn't to say goodbye to her while she was alive. It was to say goodbye to her after she had passed. Once she left Balmoral, this did not get cracked open again. So I don't want this to sound flippant, but it doesn't really matter what state her body's in at this point. I do believe that she was embalmed. The other part of this is the coffin itself. Monarchs' coffins are lined with lead. This weighs over 500 pounds because of that. Something that I think makes the pallbearers' facial expressions much more understandable. The coffin being lined with lead is a way to slow decomposition, to keep the monarch's body intact longer. It's something about preventing moisture from getting into the coffin itself. Go watch, I think Susie has videos on this, Susie Edge. I will tag her in the description. Finally, let's talk about where they are going to put the Queen's coffin after the funeral on Monday. This is the royal vault. This is where her coffin will be lowered at the ceremony at St. George's Chapel. This is a room underneath the chapel where most of the royal family is interred in their caskets. It was constructed under King George III, and it's the traditional place for members of the royal family to be put after their funeral ceremonies are over. I believe right now there are 25 royals here. Prince Philip is currently located in this vault. It's not a big refrigerator, he's not just hanging out. They're not going to open his coffin again, but he is going to be moved out of this vault because he and Elizabeth are actually going to be interred here at the George VI Memorial Chapel. This is still inside St. George's Chapel, but this is where the Queen's immediate family, her father, mother, and sister are all buried. Well, Princess Margaret's ashes are there. So I hope that answers some questions and gives you some perspective on what the burial itself.
Photos taken before tragedies, Part 1. Behind me is a photo of Nicholas Mavoli, a very famous freediver. This photo was taken after he attempted to dive 236 feet deep on a free dive. He actually ended up achieving this accomplishment and resurfaced, and here he is at the surface. He gave this very funny look right here, and people asked him if he was okay. He gave the okay sign and then promptly passed out. Shortly after this, he ended up passing away due to a pulmonary edema. And then in at number 2 is this photo taken on Japan Airlines Flight 123. As you can see, the oxygen masks are deployed, which means that this is definitely a state of emergency. Of the 520 people on this flight, now think about this, 520 people on the flight, only 4 people ended up walking away alive from this. Massive tragedy. Follow for Part 2.
Sleepover rules. 1. Nobody can sleep on the floor. This is to protect you from what's under the beds. Beds and cots will be provided for all guests. 2. Bedtime is 10 p.m. Do not leave your bed for any reason until 11. If this rule is broken, there is a very small chance of survival. The demon under the bed is very fast. 3. If you need to go to the bathroom between the hours of 11 and 3, check that everyone else in the room is there. If there are more or less guests, go under the covers and check again in a few minutes. Repeat until everything is normal, then you can go to the bathroom. 4. At 3 a.m., you will hear a knocking on the bedroom door. Do not open it for any reason. If the door is already open, close your eyes. Do not open your eyes, the consequences are irreversible. 5. If another one of the guests wakes you up at any point in the night, get out of the house immediately and go to an area with lots of people. The creature is hunting you. 5.5 The only chance of survival when being hunted by the creature is to stay near lots of people until morning. You can go back to the house then. 6. If it suddenly gets very cold or hot during the night, get up, go downstairs, and open all the windows. Immediately return to bed after doing so. 7. If you hear someone crying, stay in your bed. Do not look out the window, the little girl doesn't like to be seen. 8. If you're alive by 8 a.m., congratulations, you survived the hard part. Once the alarm clock goes off at 8, go straight downstairs. Ignore the other guests in the room. If any of them talk to you, grab a sharp or heavy object, then hit/stab them. They are not a real person, it was a matter of staying alive. If they do not go down, climb out of the window and run as fast as you can. 9. If you made it to 8:30 a.m., get yourself a bowl of cereal and leave out 3 more for the family, they need to eat. Sit at the table and look down at your food. If everything stays normal, you safe. If anything changes, get up and throw the cereal in the trash. You must skip breakfast if this happens. 10. Once all the guests have eaten, check the basement. All the bodies of the guests that didn't survive should be there. Count them, then write the number down on the whiteboard next to the door. Make sure you have the correct number, you don't want any coming back. 11. Gather your things without looking at the closet, and make your way downstairs. 12. At this point you are free to leave unless you are staying for another night. If so, read the following page of
The small town of Harpers Ferry has a long history of bloody violence and natural disasters, earning the name of being a child of tragedy, and is believed to be haunted by ghosts of its past. Its strategic trading location where the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers meet between the 3 states, West Virginia, Virginia, and Maryland, made it an attractive prize for both sides during the Civil War, and it was taken over 14 times. Harpers Ferry is teeming with ghost stories and reported apparitions, including a whole phantom army that marches down the street. The spirits of the drowned, Screaming Jenny, John Brown, a murdered drummer boy, and a priest all allegedly haunt the town. It is said that at night you can still hear the gunfire and soldiers marching from battles past.
Shadow People explained. Shadow People are 2D entities. With no real features, they're just kind of pitch black. Most people say shadow people get into your home via a portal, which most often is a mirror. The theory goes that shadow people used to be human beings, but there were also some that weren't humans, meaning their personalities and what they may do can vary. But they're all pretty much very intelligent. Although if they are spotted by humans, they most often will flee. Another explanation for what these things are sleep paralysis hallucinations, which makes this less of a supernatural thing and more of a scientific thing. But also some people think they're aliens, so who knows.
During a blaze, a firefighter loses his life, but his spirit sticks around to help another victim inside the building. Here we go. This story comes directly from his partner. The flames rose from the 2-story building as we pulled up. We knew anyone still stuck inside wouldn't last long. We had to hurry. We were the 3rd engine to arrive on the scene. Hoses were already dousing the structure with water when we got there. My partner and I were preparing to enter the building. With me was Henry, a 13-year veteran firefighter and one of my best friends. We trusted each other completely. We ran towards the building as fast as we could. The other crews had been concentrating on the front door because they knew that's how we were going in. They gave us a semi-safe entry to the building. Henry went in first and I was right on his tail. Knowing that everyone on the left-hand side of the building had a chance to get out, we concentrated on the right side where the fire had started. I indicated to Henry that I would take the passageway onto the right while he moved forward. Fire axe in hand, we went door to door looking for survivors. But all of the rooms so far were empty. After a little while, I heard over the radio, "Hey Tom, I found someone, but I'm gonna need your help." Gotcha, I'm on my way. At this point, we were pretty far away from each other, but I started heading that direction. As I got closer and closer to Henry, the flames got hotter and the place was getting to be more dangerous by the second. The flames were eating through the support beams of the building, and I thought to myself this place could collapse at any minute. Almost on cue, I heard a crash as something gave way. A chill came through me as I hollered, "Henry, are you okay?" But no response. That only made me move faster. I tried to reach Henry time and time again through the radio, but no response. I hoped he was okay, but in my gut I knew something was wrong. Each second felt like an eternity. The 5th door I looked into was a wall of flames. I almost skipped it, but I caught something out of the corner of my eye. A body laid slumped over, and a firefighter was kneeling over it. I jumped through the wall of fire and surveyed the scene in front of me. A woman was laying against the wall, but Henry wasn't there. I looked over to the left and noticed something that didn't make sense. There was Henry laying on the floor with a heavy beam that had fallen from the ceiling. I couldn't figure it out. I just saw him by the woman on the floor. I called for help as another team came rushing in to help with the beam and to take the woman to the hospital. I called out, "Henry, talk to me. Let me know you're still here with me." He didn't move or speak. He was gone. The next day I visited the woman in the hospital. She asked if I was the man who saved her. I said no, that was Henry, and he passed away. She said the beam was coming down on her and he pushed her away. And he was there the whole time telling me to hold on and help was coming.
These things shouldn't be terrifying, but they are. Part 6. While rooting through the basement of an old storage locker, this person found a box, and inside this box they found this doll. What the doll is doing there, I have no clue, but this doll is absolutely terrifying. If there were ever a chance for a real possessed doll to be walking around, I would say that this one has the best chance. Next up behind me, there's a photo of some fish, a salmon fillet perhaps, but what I'm hiding right here is this massive worm that was found inside of it. The person that reported this photo and the worm as well said that they started a parasite cleanse immediately after discovering 2 of these guys. This is why you should always check your fish, by the way. And finishing it off strong with the final one, this looks like a normal photo. I mean, this guy is kind of creepy to look at in general, but the backstory behind him is even worse. His name was Joe Metheny. He took numerous people's lives and turned his victims into burgers, selling them to people afterwards. This was without their knowledge. Follow for more content.